So starting any new enterprise or initiative in itself is a challenge. What is this thing? What's its role? It really comes from George Voinovich when it comes down to it. He had some very good experiences as mayor of Cleveland and governor of Ohio in working between unions and management to try and get better results out of the public workforce. Public-private partnership was a part of that as well. And so coming to Washington in 1999, he wanted to take a lot of lessons learned from the municipal and state level and elevate the institutional profile of human capital, was the phrase that he used throughout the process. And so it started with research. There was a series of hearings before I worked for him that he leveraged his position as chairman of the Oversight Subcommittee on Governmental Affairs to kind of learn about what does the federal workforce space look like today in the late 1990s. And out of all of that came his belief that we needed to follow CFO, CIO, CAO, and add on the thing that had been forgotten. And he said, you addressed all the administrative management issues, but you forgot the most important one, people. And so we want chief human capital officers in place at the major agencies and a governing council in place to help OPM work this issue set and really elevate the workforce for the 21st century.
Some of the biggest obstacles I faced when I came into the council really was just realizing that I had a finite amount of time to accomplish goals and objectives. So wanted to work very closely with the director at the time, Linda Springer, to set up a strategic plan for the council, making sure that we had goals and objectives that aligned with OPM's strategic plan and OPM's strategic goals. And so we could leverage as much out of the time that we had in the council to accomplish goals and objectives that were good for the government and also good for the administration.
Once I understood what my role was, I think one of the biggest obstacles for me was the scope of the role being government-wide, the necessity to reach out across all agencies and gain cooperation and trust and build relationships. It's just a massive, organization across all agencies and understanding the needs of different agencies. So it took quite a while to make the investment to really understand what each CHCO was facing in terms of their workforce challenges and how we could all come together for a common goal.
Well, so by far the biggest obstacle was the Opm Data Breach happened during my time as executive director. And so, a lot of our challenge was we still had a lot of work to get done, but we had to maintain the relationships that we had with the agency. So because of the trust that I'd built with individual CHCOs, we were able to sort of answer their questions and get their employees' questions answered and keep the important business of the agencies moving forward.
One of the things that Dr. Pond likes to talk about when we're talking about the challenges facing us is a quote that he read on the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, and I think it's worth sharing with folks here. If you don't mind, I'm going to read the quote. It's kind of long. It says, "I am not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. As that becomes more developed, more enlightened, as new discoveries are made, new truths discovered, and manners and opinions change, with the change of circumstances, institutions must advance also to keep pace with the times." Now remember, this is something being said from the 1800s, but it sounds like it could have been said last week. Thomas Jefferson goes on to state, "We might as well require a man to wear still the coat which fitted him when he was a boy, as a civilized society to remain ever under the regimen of their barbarous ancestors." Now, I don't think that our ancestors back in the 1940s after World War II were barbarous ancestors, but the general schedule was created 69 years ago, and we are still operating under civil service rules that were created in 1978. That's 40 years.
Some of the things that were harder to do than I thought, really recognizing that it takes a long time to get things done in government. And what we really should be striving for is an incremental approach to recognizing and realizing that we have some long-term goals. So making sure that we had the opportunity to make incremental approaches and take incremental steps was really important.
Putting the structure in place and getting it off to a strong start in a general sense is what I would be proud of. Specifically, I think the CHCO Academy that we established really bore some fruit right from the beginning.
Mike had done a great job setting up the structure of the council. What I'm most proud of is being able to come into the council and build on that structure. I had 3 goals when I took over the job. First and foremost, I wanted to make sure that there was the day-to-day management of the council was run successfully. 2, really understanding and evaluating and updating the strategic direction of the council. And then that 3rd piece, I think that I'm most proud of, was securing that positive legacy for the council. Things that I did want to get done that we weren't able to get done, I really wanted to professionalize the human capital workforce more, but I think we were able to set the table for the next administration through our human resource workforce subcommittee, and I know that Catherine Medina and I sat down when she took over as executive director, and we talked a lot about professionalizing the workforce. So we were very pleased and proud to lay the groundwork for what eventually became HR University, and I think Catherine did a fantastic job carrying that torch with the next administration.
I'm very proud of all the time that I spent at OPM and the CHCO Council. It definitely is what I consider the highlight of my career. If I had to narrow down to a few things that I'm particularly proud of, probably HR University would be at the top of the list. The creation and the role that I was able to play across many agencies in supporting the creation of HR University was very near and dear to my heart as an HR practitioner, but also coming in at the right time where there was definitely a need and I think a support across the agencies and through the leadership at OPM to take a stand and create something I thought was pretty special and unique for that time.
So I think the most important thing that we got done as a council while I was here was the creation of the Human Capital Benchmarking Initiative. We really started to get our arms around data from all the different agencies in a way that we could start to compare. The biggest surprise from my time on the CHCO Council was that agencies sometimes were reluctant to share the good things that they were doing with each other. And a lot of that was because of the lack of data. So if you're doing something and it's working for you, it's working for you, but you're not sure that it's a leading practice. So until we got our arms around data and we could start comparing agencies, we could then go to them and say, hey, we noticed your costs are lower and your service is rated better by your customers. So what is it that you're doing? And so then it wasn't like they were bragging on themselves, they were just explaining what the numbers were pointing us towards.
The big emphasis I have is that the CHCO Council was originally set up to be an advisory and collaborative body to OPM. There's a song in the real popular Broadway show Hamilton that says, I want to be in the room where it happens. I want to be in the room where it happens. And I believe that is the most important thing for the CHCOs. So in the private sector, there is a movement where they're talking about there's no business plan without a talent plan, which means your CHCOs have got to be at the table. One of the things that I'd really like to push and see more is the CHCOs being there as a part of the decision-making process, as a model in government for the same type of things that are occurring in the private sector. Private sector has this one bumper sticker that I really like, and it says, innovation is rewarded, but execution is worshipped. And that is where we are with CHCOs, because you can take a lot of good ideas, but CHCOs are right there on the front line having to translate those visions into actionable outcomes, and they are the ones who are turning good ideas into great execution. And that's the biggest push that Dr. Pond has and that I am excited about moving with.
Hi, I'm Jeff Pond. I'm a former CHCO at the U.S. Department of Energy and also the current chair for the CHCO Council. It's been 15 years since the inception of the CHCO Council, and I'm really proud of the great work that we've done in the last 15 years and look forward to a great future.